Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because after hearing this story, you'll never look at a mirror the same way again. It started on a cold November morning in Seattle. The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days, and police sirens echoed through the quiet neighborhood of Lakeview Avenue. Inside a small craftsman-style house, officers moved cautiously through the hallway, their flashlights cutting through the dim light. On the living room wall hung a massive, antique mirror, cracked down the center, shards scattered across the wooden floor. And on the couch opposite it lay a woman's body, pale, eyes open, frozen in terror. Her name was Lena Carter, 32, an interior designer known for her love of vintage pieces. She lived alone. Neighbors said she was quiet, polite, always had her curtains drawn. No one saw her for 3 days, until the mail began to pile up, and a strange smell drifted through the hallway. That's when police entered, and found what looked like a crime scene straight out of a psychological thriller. Detective Aaron Blake, a veteran with 20 years on the force, stood in front of the mirror, notebook in hand. "This thing's older than the house," he muttered. The glass was smeared with what looked like fingerprints, too many, and in all directions. But there was something else. When the forensic team took photographs, one of the images showed a faint silhouette inside the mirror, a human shape that didn't match Lena's position or the reflections of anyone in the room. The autopsy revealed no signs of assault, no forced entry, no poison. The cause of death was listed as cardiac arrest due to extreme fear. But what frightened her so badly? When Blake went through Lena's phone, he found a series of late-night voice notes she had recorded days before her death. In one, she whispered, "It's happening again. The mirror, it's delayed. My reflection moves after I do." Another recording captured her crying, "I think someone's inside it, watching me, smiling when I'm not." The last voice note was time-stamped 2:47 a.m., just hours before she died. A faint male voice can be heard saying, "Don't turn around." Investigators assumed it was a prank, maybe a stalker messing with her. But when tech experts analyzed the audio, they confirmed something terrifying. The voice didn't come from her phone's microphone. It was recorded from within the room, just behind her. And then, one detective made a discovery that changed everything. Hidden behind the mirror's frame was a small compartment, and inside it, a folded newspaper clipping dated 1978. The headline read, "Woman found dead in front of mirror. Police suspect foul play." The address listed at the bottom. The exact same house. The rain returned the next morning as Detective Aaron Blake stood on Lena Carter's porch, watching the coroner's van disappear down the street. He'd seen plenty of strange deaths in his career, but something about this one refused to make sense. No signs of struggle, no signs of entry, no clear suspect, just a dead woman and a mirror that seemed to hold secrets no one could explain. Inside, forensic technicians worked in silence. Every photo, every fingerprint, every blood sample came back clean. Nothing pointed to foul play, yet everything felt wrong. The mirror had been moved recently. Faint scuff marks on the floor revealed it had been dragged a few inches from the wall. Someone had tampered with it. Blake called in Dr. Emily Vargas, a historian who specialized in antique artifacts, to trace the mirror's origins. Within hours, she uncovered something chilling. "It's called the Ravenwood glass," she told him, her voice trembling as she flipped through old records. It was crafted in 1894 by a man named Arthur Bellamy, a mirror maker accused of multiple murders. They say he used reflective silver mixed with trace amounts of human ash from his victims. According to archived reports, the mirror had changed owners dozens of times, every one of them dying under mysterious circumstances. Police dismissed it as coincidence, until now. Blake didn't believe in curses or haunted relics. But when he examined the back of the frame again, he found a hidden camera lens embedded within the wood, tiny, nearly invisible. A modern one, not something from the 1800s. It wasn't supernatural. It was surveillance. He traced the wiring through the wall and into a crawl space beneath the house. There, coated in dust, was an old server box, still running. Inside it were hundreds of recorded files, time-stamped and labeled with dates, most recent. Lena_02_47am.mp4. Blake watched the footage in silence. The video showed Lena sitting on her couch, crying softly. Behind her, the mirror shimmered faintly, her reflection lagging by seconds. Then something moved in the corner, a shadowed figure stepping forward. The reflection smiled first, then Lena turned, startled. The figure lunged. The video cut to static. Blake felt his stomach tighten. "We've got a suspect," he said quietly. Digital forensics traced the hidden feed to a nearby address, a house just 3 blocks away, owned by Vincent Hale, a reclusive antiques dealer. Hale had sold Lena the mirror 2 weeks before she died, but when police raided his home, they found it empty. The power was off, the room stripped bare. Only one thing remained on the wall, another mirror, identical to Lena's. On the glass, written in red marker, were 5 words. She shouldn't have looked back. By the time detectives returned to the station, the media had already caught wind of the story. The mirror murder, that's what they called it. Reporters swarmed the precinct steps, desperate for details. But Detective Aaron Blake knew this was no ordinary homicide. This was a trail of obsession, voyeurism, and death stretching back decades, and now it had a name, Vincent Hale. Hale's background was a mess of aliases, bankrupt businesses, and stolen identities. His real name was Victor Bellamy, a direct descendant of the original mirror's creator, Arthur Bellamy. It wasn't just an antique trade. It was a family legacy built on manipulation and fear. Records showed that Victor had purchased dozens of antique mirrors, retrofitted them with microcameras, and sold them to private buyers, installing hidden servers that streamed footage directly to his devices. But with Lena Carter, something went further. Blake and Dr. Vargas examined the footage recovered from the crawl space again, frame by frame. In the static after Lena's scream, a faint reflection appeared behind the distortion. A man wearing a dark coat, his face partially obscured, but smiling. Using enhanced imaging, they matched the face to Victor Bellamy. The problem was, his fingerprints were found nowhere inside Lena's home. No DNA. No trace of forced entry. How did he get in? Vargas asked. Blake stared at the shattered mirror, the jagged cracks splitting Lena's reflection in half. Maybe he didn't, he said quietly. Later that night, Blake returned to the Lakeview house alone. The property was sealed off, but he had a nagging feeling he couldn't ignore. He set his phone to record and approached the broken mirror, flashlight trembling slightly in his hand. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of electricity. He stared into the cracked surface, and for a moment, his reflection didn't move. Then it smiled. Blake spun around. Nothing. His pulse pounded as he lifted the flashlight again, breathing unevenly. "You're not real," he muttered. But the reflection tilted its head, whispering words he could barely hear. "You look back." The phone fell from his hand, hitting the floor with a dull thud. The video feed showed the detective backing away, then the reflection stepping forward, independent of him. The screen went dark. When officers found his car parked outside the next morning, Blake was gone. Inside the house, the mirror stood perfectly upright, repaired, polished, and spotless, except for a single fresh fingerprint on the glass. The department classified it as a disappearance. The case remains unsolved. But 3 months later, a local antique shop in Portland listed a new item for sale online. Rare Victorian mirror, original craftsmanship, excellent condition, last owned by a private investigator. And in the reflection of the listing photo, a faint figure can be seen standing just behind the photographer. If you thought this story was dark, you're not ready for what comes next. Subscribe before you look back, because some reflections don't wait.